Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of This Woman Can. My guest this week is Tanya Davis. And Tanya is a life coach who is passionate about empowering women who are juggling both a career and single motherhood. As a single mom and a career professional, Tanya knows firsthand the struggles that come with balancing work and a home life. With her education in communications and change management, Tanya helped local and state governments improve their communication and better serve their communities. But it wasn't until she applied the principles of change management to her own life that she discovered the power in helping her cope with the challenges of being a single mother while pursuing her career. Tanya used these skills to navigate the grief of single motherhood and embrace the change in her life. Successfully balancing her role as a professional and a mother, she then started domestic violence ministry to help women in need, providing them with tools to leave abusive situations. After witnessing the transformational impact of these skills, Tanya decided to use her expertise to coach other single career moms. By applying change management principles, she helps these women gain confidence in balancing their professional and personal responsibilities and motivates them to pursue their goals with enthusiasm. Tanya's unique approach to coaching led her to develop the butterfly rising method, which she uses today to help support single professional mothers seeking transformational change. So Tanya, welcome to This Woman Can.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm just really excited to be here. Excited and nervous, right?
Well, I'll be gentle with you, so don't worry about the nervousness. And I'm excited to have you here. Some of the things I read in your bio really rang true for me, having been a professional single mom, albeit a few years ago. But yes, some of those things, I think we'll talk about it, but maybe it's challenging it's disheartening to hear that some of the same challenges that I faced maybe 30 odd years ago are still there for professional single moms. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today, Tanya.
So a bit about my journey is I became pregnant at the age of 21 during my senior year of college. And I had a great projection to have this fabulous career. I always pictured myself in the C-suite, 38th, 40th floor downtown. But there were other plans. And so I became pregnant my senior year after finishing two internships at an auditing firm, at a public accounting firm. And it was during this time where I had to make the decision in regards to really, do I want to have this big dream, really move forward fast in this big dream of having a career, or do I want to transition and figure out a way to have both a career and my child? So of course I chose the latter and realized that, wow, it's pretty difficult to be a young 20-year-old in a public accounting firm where no one looks like you.
Yes.
And so, yeah, so it was in these boardrooms where, you're treated, you're not treated as though you really have the intelligence that you have, but more so of the help. Right. Or not being equal to, because I didn't have the same situation at home, of having a husband, or me being at home and cooking my husband's meals, packing his lunch and all that, and getting to where he needs to go. And so really, fast forward a few years, I realized that just wasn't the right situation for me. Oftentimes I was really still trying to make ends meet. I had a great salary, but I was still trying to make ends meet with my son. And what did that mean is that I had to work. I had to drop my son off at 6 a.m. And then also I had to pick him up around 7 p.m. and have kind of that it takes a village, right? Yes, and so have that rotational tribe of people coming and picking him up, and I'll go to different houses. But really what dawned on me is that, is it really important to have that high profile career, or is it more important for me to pour into my son? And so I chose to pour into my son and transition basically to government, which I believe was more rewarding. in regards to really being able to see the impact that you're having on your community, and being able to take risks, take a change, or being able to take a risk and implement change on a scale where you can see the impact. So it wasn't as much in regards to focusing in on the profit, right? Are we getting our revenue in? Are we charging you correctly? What is my rate? No, it was really about how can I improve. I started in Department of Transportation, so it was like, how can I improve these highways? And it was like I was part of this like gruff group, and really getting in there with the guys. But I was in auditing, so I wasn't really out there in the streets like they were, but I felt like I was, right? And then eventually it was at the Department of Transportation where I really realized that I have a niche for problem solving, being able, and I think that's attributed to my background in auditing, but it was really there where I was just like, government. So I love being in the government, right? But we hold on to a lot of processes, right? So a process could have been created in 1972 and we're still holding on to it in 2002, to where we don't know how to effectively communicate that this may not be the best way to do it. And so really being able to get a group of people together to navigate change and to be able to use lean principles, Six Sigma, anything that you could think of to be able to navigate them through that, I realized that that was truly my passion, and being able to effectively communicate and learning to be able to do that. And so really that's been my career, is in government. And now I work at a wonderful airport that helps small businesses to be historically underutilized businesses to be able to enter in to the airport and understand how to navigate the airport. And that's a training program that I was able to create, once again, with a group of people, just taking the vision of leadership and then bringing a group of people together, strangers, total strangers, to develop it. So that's kind of been my career journey. And then also, you talked a bit about my ministry. My ministry work that started, Butterfly Rising Institute, actually started in my church for Instill I Rise, partnership against domestic violence, where I also implemented those change management principles. Now, these were all new to me. And I was like, oh, let me try it out here. Let me get an A3. Let me try to navigate the women through the change in regards to what's going on. How can they understand it? What is it? What is the grief that we're going through with this change? And how can we be able to lead it to something better?
Fabulous, fabulous. Now, I want to touch on Butterfly Rising a little bit, because as you know, I work mainly with women, mature women, 40s, 50s. So how would what you do support them in making those changes or navigating their careers or whatever their change transition is?
Yeah, so Butterfly is actually an acronym. So it's a process in which they work through. So we focus in on that first half of really the butterfly goes through 4 cycles, right? So that first cycle is the egg. So it's really focusing in on what is it that I need to deal with now. Oftentimes as women, we feel like we just got to save the world in one day. Right?
We just put a cape on.
Right? Put our cape on. We're out there. We're ready. We're going to do this. But it's really being able to say, okay, what's in my inventory of situations that I'm dealing with right now? And what can I focus in on to be able to make better? And so really what I focus in on is making change one step at a time. And so for that first B, so B is becoming, right? So what is it that the woman wants to become? What is it that she wants to see in her future? So after we take this inventory, after we take that one situation, what is it that you want to be able to become in it? So we work through that becoming, looking at your future state. And then once we are able to see what your future state is, we develop a plan to be able to get from becoming to actually being able to do it. But really what's unique about Butterfly Rising Institute is that we give the opportunity to test, right? I said I have an auditing background.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so in auditing, that's what we did, right? My first year of auditing, I always had to do inventory, right?
Yeah.
So I had to go to these big warehouses, count all the products, and make sure that they tie back to their balance sheet, right? But it's the same principles for us as individuals. Let's take our inventory. Let's go ahead and do the steps, the actions to make sure that it's accurate and that there will actually be a change in the needle in which we're trying to get to. So really that is what we focus in on at Butterfly, because that T, as I skip through the letters, but the T is really transformation, where
Right,
we are creating the plan, where we are diving in, being able to move through it. And then as we go through the plan, we start to understand really what is it that may be toxic that's not helping us. So as I went through this, and I'm able to see possibly, Sheila, I'm just making up a name. There's any Sheila's out there, I'm sorry. But maybe Sheila is not helping me to be able to move forward. So how do I deal with Sheila? Does she really belong in this true vine, which is my body, my mind, and my soul? And then being able to embrace who you are, which is the E. And then the R is reflection, being able to reflect. And then fly is really being able to celebrate. It's important to be able to celebrate whatever the change may be.
Yeah, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. So you've been through some career changes, you've been through some career transitions. What did you fear most about facing that or going through that process, Tanya?
I think the biggest fear really was just the fear would have been not doing it or not trying it out. Oftentimes I have an analytical mind, right? So I will
say no more, but carry on.
Right? I will talk myself out of any situation. It took me to build BRI and actually go out and do it probably about 2 years, because it was in my brain in regards to, well, how will people perceive me? Am I confident enough to really be able to step out there and be the face? I don't like cameras too much, right? But I realize in this space that I need to do it. And so this transitional point that I'm going through right now, the fear would have been there's too many women left behind. I see myself where when I was 22 and going through my career, I'm still in my career, but as I was beginning my career, there weren't many resources for women who look like me or who were in my position.
Yes.
As I tried to get help, a lot of doors were closed because I didn't fit. I fit here, right in the middle. I didn't fit below, and I didn't fit above, but I still needed help. And you don't know how many people told me, no, you're fine. You don't really need help. And so I think that was the biggest fear, is that, I believe that there's so many different women to help. And if I did not take the risk or the chance, then I believe that many people would have been left behind.
Right. Yeah, I hear that. So what would have been the most difficult part of doing that then? And what would have made it easier, do you think?
Oh, I think taking my mind out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, taking your mind out, and you obviously did, because you're doing it.
Yes.
So just describe for us what that process was, how you overcame that. Because don't get me wrong, I deal with a lot of women who have these mental thoughts and these things running through their head. I call them the inner mean girl. I have one. So how did you manage that?
With my process, testing. Right. So I would dip my toe a little bit in regards to how do I simply right? I work with businesses every day. I've been working with
Yeah.
businesses for the past 7 years, but really stepping into this was different in
Mm.
regards to how do you do the messaging. So I would write out the message and then I would test it out. Does this
Mm.
message resonate with people? Does it not? Okay, tell me what's wrong.
Mm.
I talk a lot about shattered glass, shattering that glass of thinking that everything needs to be perfect and
Yes.
understanding that it's okay to take risk. Now, it doesn't
Mm.
have to be a huge risk, but small risk, understanding that, oh, I'm still here.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The sky didn't fall,
Yeah. Yeah.
and understanding that it's okay to take those small incremental steps to deal with the mean girls,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Where there's
Yes.
always that moment in time where you're dealing with when you're dealing with those mean thoughts or just even toxic people where you
Mm.
stand up to them that one time,
Mm.
and you feel good, you feel confident because you did it, you did it. And so I believe that's how you get out of your head is in regards to just doing it,
Mm.
understanding that it will not be perfect. Put that in your head. It
Yeah.
will not be perfect, but I understand that there's a process to be able to change it along the way to
Yes.
where it can get there.
Yeah, yeah. And I always tell people that I have a bit of a MacGyver mindset because, like you, I problem solve. I like to problem solve, and it may not always be pretty, but I
Yes,
always work on what the end goal is. It doesn't.
correct.
I didn't ask for it to be perfect and pretty. I asked for it to solve a problem.
Yep.
And sometimes we have to focus on what the end goal is as opposed to how we think people perceive it, what it looks like, and stuff like that. I'm just focused on what I need to get done.
Yeah, the means to the end, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, what did I have to go through?
Yeah. So Tanya, share with us one of the biggest challenges, one of your biggest challenges, how you overcame it and the lessons you learned from it.
I think the biggest challenge that I've overcome is really in twofold, right? Is one really making the decision to step back in regards to wanting to be that mom, and then also fast forward being an empty nester now.
Right.
Believe it or
Yes.
not,
Yes.
that was a change.
Yeah.
And so my son, he's off to college, he's third year now,
Yeah.
but that first year he went off to college, it was COVID. And
Yeah.
so I was an empty nester, and I'm used to just driving him around. He has to go here,
Mm.
he has to go there. I'm talking
Yeah.
to different teachers, the daily routine. And so just having the silence during COVID, him being off to college, that
Mm.
was a little bit of a challenge in regards to, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What is it that I need to do now?
Yeah.
I'm having fun in my career, but is it really feeding me? Am I
Yeah.
getting that same excitement that I got the first time that I
Yeah.
went into government and serving people? And
Yeah.
and I love what I do now, but I felt like there just needed to be a little bit more in regards to really wanting to reach out and
Mm.
help other women who are in this position. And then also um, the daily challenge, right? I don't know how to phrase this, but the daily challenge, right, of just being a Black woman,
Yeah.
of a Black woman in a career, oftentimes where people may not look like you, or they may not be able to relate to you because there's different cultures, uh,
Yes.
different languages that we use, and well, even not even that, but oftentimes when we talk about like diversity, equity, and inclusion, we think of diversity as just skin color, but really diversity is just so much more that we may not even consider or think about. I mean, there's a lot more research coming out now,
Yeah.
but really just being able to effectively understand different people, their ways of communication, and how to deal with toxicity at the workplace
Yeah.
was probably my largest challenge. I'm out of that situation, but really dealing with that as well.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I just want to touch back to the empty nesting,
Yeah.
because my experience was a little different. We both had children at the same age. I had my first son at 21, and another one a little bit further down, and I'm a little older. So I think with my last son, I like to say I left home because I actually moved countries just as he was starting university, because I got a new job. So there was so I didn't really, and as much I did not much have the empty nesting, but I did have the guilt when I went back to see him. When I went back, I came back, and I had the tears in the car park and all that kind of thing. So how do you, and there's a lot of women I work with who are, this is probably the time they're looking at, oh, I don't have the children anymore. I don't have, and there's what do I do? And I am now the center of my universe, not so much the children. So how did you navigate that empty nesting, the first steps to being an empty nester?
So I tell people I filled the void, but I probably filled it too fast, right? I was like, it's too silent here. I need to do something, right? And so that's really how I was able to navigate it, is that I'm trying to find my words, but I believe the way that I did it should not have been the way that I did it, right? I should have really embraced the silence. I should have embraced the opportunity to be able to sit, think, really reflect on what is it that I want to strategize and be able to do next, But on the flip side of that, I can't say it was all wrong, because during that time, that was the birth of Butterfly Rising Institute. That's where I started to really think, okay, I want to do this. I want to be able to be an entrepreneur. I want to be able to help other women. How do I do this? How do I use my skill sets to really build something that's fruitful for other women? It was that reflection time, especially during COVID, that I was able to see that that was what my next move would be. And during COVID, you didn't really have much time to really feel it, but for some reason I did. I was I was running, I was watching TV, you know what I mean? I was just doing a lot. But that empty nester, it's real. It's real.
Yeah. I would say I'd say give yourself some grace. Because it's not until it actually happens do we know what it's going to be like. And I think it's different for every woman. So give yourself some grace. You probably did it the right way. You think it's the wrong way, but it's the right way for you.
Yes, that's true.
So so and you're through the other side. It's just how we look at it, I think, and just accepting it's a next stage. It's definitely a next stage. And as you said, what are the opportunities? So Tanya, how has failure made a positive difference in your life?
I would say fail forward, right? We've heard that several times. In regards to fail forward, I embrace failure. Now, do I like it? No, but I understand that it needs to happen in order for me to learn from the experience. Also, the positivity in failure is really being able to take accountability in that failure. I think at times we may try to blame the other person, but not see how we played into that conflict. That was my whole master's was really conflict and conflict management. And it was there in regards to really seeing what role, I'm not innocent in every situation. Every failure that I have, every problem that I have, I can't say that I'm 100% innocent in it. Now, some situations, yes, 100% innocent, but I can say in about 80%, right, I probably played a role in that, to where maybe I didn't communicate to the best of my ability, or maybe I had a delay and didn't realize I was in a delayed situation, So I always say fail forward. Make sure that you learn from whatever that failure was, see what it is that you can change within you, because all you can control is you,
Yes,
and
yes, very
being
true.
able to move forward with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's great advice there. And if you had to start over from scratch, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
You know, I went back and forth on this question. I don't know if I would change my story.
Okay.
You know, my story has many trials, tribulations, but I learned from those. So if I were to redo my story, I can guarantee there would be different mistakes. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
would be different failures. There would
Yeah.
be different times where I've slipped up. And so the lesson would be different. I think the purpose of my life story was for me to be in this point right here, right now, to
Yeah.
be able to serve those who I need to serve. So
Mm.
I don't really know what I would do differently. I think, if anything, I would have started out with more confidence, or started out
Yeah.
with, this is who I am, I know who I am, and I can't let you shatter me,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
type of thing.
So when you're faced with confidence issues, Tanya, how do you deal with them?
Um, Really just that self-talk in
Mm.
regards to, I know you can do this, you are amazing. And then let me tell you the 50 reasons as to why you can do this. And
Yeah.
really writing them out in regards to being able to combat that negative talk. You
Yeah.
know, when I first came out with BRI, it didn't resonate with many people.
Mm.
So for the single moms, because I'm like, well, it's the single moms who are older, or the single moms who are mid-level careers. When you say single mom, people automatically think that, you know, we are just like
Yeah. Yeah.
type
There's a
of thing.
stereotype.
It's a
Yeah.
stereotype, it's a
Yeah.
stigma that
Yeah.
comes along with it. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, no, my journey is to really be able to
Yeah.
uplift. How can we give
Yeah.
them the tools and the principles to be
Yeah.
able to grow?
Yeah, thank you. And that's a really nice lead into something I want to talk to you about, because one of the things we were talking about off camera, was that you had written about the 5 dilemmas
Yeah.
that career moms face
Yeah.
and how to navigate these dilemmas to become successful. And we were talking about, I call it mature mothers, because as I said, we had our children relatively early, relatively young, in our 20s. But we do know there are women having their children now. They've had their careers first, then they've had their children maybe in their 40s, late 40s. So that's 50, 60. You're still wanting to having to work because you have to put your children through university. So I was very keen to get your take on actually navigating some of that as a professional single mother. So tell us about the 5 dilemmas you wrote about, and how we navigate those, especially
Yeah.
from a mature perspective.
Yeah. So the 5 dilemmas was actually developed by Rappaport in 1969. They started this research, but of course, back then it was focused in on just one particular type of, as women were entering the workforce. I'll put it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
And so there's 5 different dilemmas that we deal with as working women. The first one being the overload dilemma. And so the overload dilemma is that we have many responsibilities in the home. Even if we have someone who's in the home living with us, we still need to make sure that the kids get the daycare, that they have dinner, that they have lunch, the clothes are laid out, whatever your process is at home. We still have to ensure that it gets done when we get home. But then also we have a career that we are wanting to grow. And so oftentimes there's that tug of war, right, that we go through in regards to what my home needs me, but my career needs me too, because I may have this big project that's on the line that's going to cause me to stay till 7 p.m., but my kid needs to be picked up at 5 p.m. You see that overlap there in regards to the overload dilemma. The second one is the normative dilemma. And this really relates to asking yourself that question from the overload is, what do I want my commitment level to be to my career? And that's kind of what we go through, right? Even me right now for this dilemma is in regards to, okay, if I pull back, right, then will I have health insurance for my son as he's finishing out his years in college? If I pull back right now, as you mentioned, will I really be able to help him pay for his tuition, his rent, his food, everything else, you know? And so that's really what we focus in on with the normative dilemma in regards to what feels normal to us, right? Identity dilemma is really what we it's what we go through in our mind in regards to really being able, society sees us as one way, right? Whatever, they'll look at you first, they'll see who you are, and then automatically, our brains automatically will describe a story, right? But it's really saying, well, that's not my identity, this is my identity. And really being able to play those two, they kind of play against each other, but this is really a dilemma because when you're at work and you're trying to be that powerhouse, well, they may tell you, right, that you are a mean girl, right? Or they may put some other descriptor there in regards to when you're coming in as a woman and you're getting things in order. Well, that kind of messes with your identity because we're supposed to be soft or gentle, you know? So what is it that we are supposed to be? Or if you're a mom, you may have other people who come in and say, well, why aren't you home more with your kids? I always have to deal with that. Always have to deal with that. And so that's that third dilemma in which that we deal with. And then the next one is that, the social network dilemma. So this is that one where you may not fit in exactly at those social gatherings. Where you may be, for example, for the older women, you may see other women who are starting to either go into their next career or they're starting to retire or, work less, but you're still there having to still work and grind and do what it is that you need to do. So oftentimes this causes a social dilemma in regards to, okay, what is our relationship, or do I really fit in? And how do I really best navigate that situation? And really it's understanding what your boundaries are with each one of your friends or with each one of your groups. Not everybody need to know all your business, right? They don't need to know everything. They don't need to know your full story. It's like, okay, here's my relationship with you. I talked with you about my career, right? Here's my relationship with you, where it's just maybe on a social level where we go to the movies, we read books, or do whatever, and then you may have your mom group or empty nester group. I feel like I need to start an empty nester group, or you may have like an empty nester group to where they can understand, because honestly, I kind of go through this right now where out of my friend group, I'm the only one right now who's an empty nester. They all have kids who are
much younger.
Much younger. So sometimes we're all sitting there, talking, have a good time. I can't relate. I'm like, well, mine's done,
I know it well.
They're talking about, the carpooling and having issues, with this teacher and that teacher. And I'm like, well, I don't even know who his teachers are really, type of thing. So that's the social dilemma. And then that last one is role cycling. Really determining when it's best to have a child. If I have a child now, then that may delay X, Y, and Z. If I wait to have a child, I may wait too long and then, miss that window of opportunity. So it's really understanding when do you want to cycle in to the next role, and what does that look like for you for the role cycling. And so really to get through each one of these, it takes it takes a conversation in regards to whoever the other parties may be involved. And really, I'm thinking with the overload dilemma. So as me, I was overloaded because I was a single mom. So I didn't really have anyone to bounce off of. However, as I mentioned, I had my village.
Yeah.
And so it was really being able to say, hey, I'm overwhelmed, I need some help. And really being able to make a schedule to be able to understand where is it that the gaps are, or where is it that, you know, my son needs to be, type of thing for it. And so even now, you know, I still feel overloaded sometimes, but this is where the most amazing word comes in. No, you know,
yes, it's a full
yeah.
sentence.
And learning how to be able to say no so you
Yeah.
don't get stuck into
Yeah.
this overload dilemma.
Yeah. And it's definitely a challenge because, you know, as you said, one of the things you said there is that where my career needs me. And I'm not, and I thought about it, the first thing that came to mind is, well, what I want from my career, because I want a career. I always used to tell people that the label, we start getting labels, you're so-and-so's mom, you're so-and-so's wife, you're so-and-so's this. I'm like, but I am an individual. I had a personality, a life. I am an individual before I had you, and I will continue. So I still have wants, not just needs. I have wants, you know, and it's not wrong to want that. And I think some of us sometimes have the challenge about, I should want my children. And it's not about, you know, I should give all to my children, but I think then you're losing yourself.
Completely agree.
And I think that transition then become, and as you get older, the empty nesting, that becomes much more difficult because you've lost who you are. You've lost your identity, or you've given all conversely to your career. And when you don't have that career, you've lost that identity. Yeah. You know? So there's a lot of chat, and these are things I end up dealing with, you know, with a lot of clients. It's like, well, who am I really?
Yeah.
Without that, without those titles.
Yeah. But yeah, and I agree. I really do agree. And how is it that you create your own title?
Yes.
You know, what title do you want to be called? And that's that whole becoming in regards to what is it that you want to become, you know? Because we get wrapped up into our kids, their identity becomes our identity.
Yes.
You know? And I always tell people I was known as that mom. Here comes that mom. Because I was always like changing policies, you know, procedures.
You're one of those moms.
Yeah, yep, I surely was. And so, you know, when he left, that part was kind of gone, you know, not everything was gone of who I am and who I was. But I definitely had to be able to say, I definitely had to kind of, for lack of a better word, like rebrand, right? Or reimagine. Let me use that. Reimagine of who it is that I am now.
Yeah. And it's, you know what, there's no shame in being that mom. I was that mom. I went on to the school I became a school governor because I was one of those moms to get those things changed. You know,
same here. Same here. I was on the
nothing wrong with those moms.
The
writing was on the wall, you know. The writing was on the wall. And as you said, and you know, and back then it was like having the career. I had my career. I became a CEO in my 50s. I hit the C-suite in my 50s. So there's nothing to stop you just because you have that hiccup early on in life. Doesn't mean that you cannot succeed later. I'm going to stop banging the table. Doesn't mean that you can't succeed later on. You just need to do a little bit of rearranging sometimes. And as you said,
and is that still your desire? You know? Because that was my desire back when I was in my 20s, you know?
Absolutely. That is no longer my desire in my almost 60s. No, like that, which is why I stopped. I stopped being, I didn't want to do that anymore. That wasn't, I stopped and said, it's not for me. And your values that you had in your 20s and 30s, dare I say, it shouldn't be they shouldn't be that in the 50s. It's different. It's much, much different. And that's okay. That's definitely okay. I need to get off my soapbox a little there. But
I'm with it. I'm like, let's go ahead.
So Tanya, we're coming down to our last few questions.
Okay.
So what would be your best career advice for other women at midlife?
Really to just do. right?
Yeah.
To really be able to think about what it is that you want to do, reflect upon it, and then be able to act on it. You know, to not let that fear and not let the voices in our head deter us. And not even the voices in our head, right? The voices who are on the outside too. Because you're always going to have those people who may not be as passionate about your dream as you are. But that's why you're your best advocate at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know?
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And what are the 3 things that you've learned about yourself during your career?
Oh boy. Look, one of the 3 things is that I'm resilient.
Yeah.
That I have the ability to be able to bounce back, you know, from bad situations. I think the other thing that I learned about myself is that my leadership style fits into servant leadership.
Right.
Is that I have a passion to serve, to help others, to support others. It's not about all that I can get. You know, it's truly about being able to see how can I pull you up, or how can I be able to walk alongside of you, whatever that may look like, so we could become more powerful together. You know, there's the power in we. And then I believe the third thing is that a lot of people tell me. So I always tell, you know, when I'm at work, I'm like, oh, I got an idea. And everybody's like, oh no. You know? Let's do it. Let's go. And I'm all excited about it. But I really learned about myself. Like, I don't think like others. You know, I like thinking outside of the box. I equally have an analytical mind and a creative mind. And oftentimes those two combined kind of create different types of entities, different types of events. And so that's really what I learned about myself.
Fabulous, fabulous. I love that. I love that. And so now you're an empty nester, Tanya. Where would we find you typically on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m.?
So typically right now you'll find me at the library writing papers, trying to get done with this PhD. And then afterwards, normally I run. So I like to train for half marathons here. So Saturday mornings are usually my time to myself to run and reflect.
Yeah, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And my last question is, what does success feel like to you, Tanya?
Success feels like joy.
Yeah.
It feels like accomplishment. It feels like, you know, my heart's getting fluttery right now. It's just a good feeling, you know, and success is different for everyone, you know. So my success would truly bring me joy in regards to being able to see other women rise, to be able to continue helping, you know, our group at work for underutilized businesses. So that's success to me, is when they succeed.
Fabulous, fabulous. And if people want to connect with you and know more about what you do, where can they find you?
They can find me on our website at www.butterflyrisinginstitute.com. They can also like us on Facebook at Butterfly Rising Institute, or on Instagram at BTRFly_rise.
Excellent. I'll be sure to put all the links in the show notes. So Tanya, that was my last question. Thank you so much for being my guest on This Woman Can.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.